Hello and welcome to Insights in Action with Orange 142, where we interview agency leaders and business owners to uncover the journeys, strategies, and insights that drive their success. At Orange 142, we're all about transforming brand stories into impactful digital experiences through innovative media and marketing solutions. And today, I'm very lucky to be joined by Andrew Kordek of iPost. How's it going, Andrew?
It's going well, Shiv. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on. And Andrew, I would love to just start this off by learning a little bit more about you and learning a
Mhm.
little bit more about iPost.
Yeah. So I've had the pleasure of being in email marketing for over 26 years. I call it the superfecta, right? And what I mean by the superfecta of experiences, I've been client side. I've run email programs at Quest Software, at Sears and Kmart when they were around. I was actually one of the first 130 people at Groupon, ran their email program for a little bit over a year worldwide. Then I went to the agency side and I co-founded an agency. And I grew that agency from two people to over 200 people, specifically in email marketing, about 40 million in revenue. My business partner and I said, hey, he wants to go one way, I want to go the other. So I went ahead and went my way. Joined iPost back in 2020 during COVID, became their VP and ran all their customer engagements, support, marketing. And then guess what? I retired in 2023. I know it's hard to tell by the retirement, but I got a little gray. Look, I worked hard for almost 30 years and I retired and became fractional here at iPost, set up a small consultancy firm. So that's the four areas of email marketing. But let me tell you a little bit about iPost because I think it's very interesting how iPost is an email service provider in specific niches. And when we talk about that, if you go to our website, ipost.com, you'll learn that, yeah, we send emails, right? We have clients that send emails, but we really are focused in specific niches, casinos, franchise, publishing, those areas where we find, hey, look, we've designed this software around the business models of these particular sort of verticals. And so think of us as I always look at the branded monkey that everybody loves to talk about and the constant whatever, right? Those are some of the competitors or Salesforce, things of that nature. So we're an email service provider. We're the most powerful email service providers for casinos, for franchise, for publishing. So encourage you to check it out. I put a lot of content out there. I write a lot of that content. And then I also run a consulting business on the side to keep my mind going in my golden age of retirement.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, you seem like one of those people that you get real joy out of doing what you do every day, and it's hard to
Yeah,
retire when you have that.
totally. Plus, I need to get escape this to get away from things.
You're
That,
right, right.
yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned you've been in the email marketing space for over 25 years. What's changed the most and what's surprisingly stayed the same?
What surprisingly stayed the same, I'll address that first, is that yeah, there's been some fundamental changes, but it's not gotten easier despite what email marketers or what C-level people think about email marketing. It's actually gotten harder. So it stayed the same because it's been as hard as it's always been for the 20 plus years. I think what's the biggest change that a lot of people have to deal with these days is guess what? ISPs, the Gmails and the Yahoos of the world are getting smarter, and they have been for years. They're clamping down on organizations that want to push the gray or dark boundaries of email marketing, and they are forcing senders to become good players, good stewards of email marketing. And historically, that's not been done before in the past. So they're layering in all of these different things, and you have to play by the rules these days. Before there was a little bit of the Wild West, right? And then the advent of Castle in Canada or the California privacy laws, it's all clamping back down. And so people need to take this step back and say, how have I done email marketing before in the past? And we can't do the same that we did before. We
Yeah.
have to change the way that we do specific things. And that's hard. That's hard
Mm.
for anybody, right? Because they've always been used to like push buttons, send email, get revenue. And that's not really what's happening today.
Yeah, wow, really interesting. It's funny, you come at this from this email marketing side for people who have essentially opted in. How do you send emails to people who are in your universe? And I come at it. I was a VP of sales at my last job for a cold email lead generation agency. That's the main ways. And it's so funny that we had shared this thing of these ISPs really cracking down and how innovative people are really becoming to try to get around those things from both ends. I'm not as familiar on the email marketing side, but on our side, we've got like email warm up. There's all these things to try to get around so that Gmail and Outlook think that you're a real person just to try to do some outreach. But either way, I think Gmail, Outlook, these ISPs have this hard task of trying to make sure that people follow the rules so that email in general as a platform is
Right.
a enjoyable experience for everybody.
Think about this, and I always love telling the story. I was on a plane one day, and someone asked me, "Hey, Andrew, what do you do for a living?" I'm an email marketing. I own an agency. This was when I was an agency owner, and they're like, "So you're that guy?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not that guy." So if you think about email in itself, it's got a bad rap, right? People don't like it, but people depend upon it, and it's probably been ruined by certain bad actors, right? However, when they're well-known brands or unknown brands or spammers or political or whatever you want to associate it with. And now we have to kind of say to ourselves, how do we dig ourselves out of this hole, right?
Mhm.
And you mentioned something about getting around, right? There's no longer the shortcuts. There's no longer the bat phones, right, to the Yahoo postmaster and be like, hey, take us off your blacklist or your block list. It's just not happening that way. You have to play by these rules. Once you play by the rules, you can push the envelope a little bit. But man, you can't just come right out of the gates thinking you're going to do what you've always done.
And you mentioned you guys work in some pretty like unique industries, casinos, franchises, and publishers. What makes email marketing uniquely challenging or powerful in for those verticals?
Data, right? So think about it. Everyone loves to talk about data, and we've got data, and we can use data, and how do we use data? But think about the casino level, right? And the casino level, it's not just about gambling, right? It's not just about how somebody pulling a slot machine or playing craps. They've got a ton of data of what people have done, are can predict what they are doing through loyalty programs. But it's all about an entertainment value, right? An entertainment mecca, as I like to call it, right? People can go to casinos today, be entertained not just by gambling or free play. There's shows, there's restaurants, there's spas, there's so much more to do. And
Yeah.
so that there's this email marketing, and how you leverage it is to say, know somebody. Does Shiv like this? Does Shiv like that? And then tailor your emails to Shiv's wants and needs rather than what your wants and needs are. And so you think about that, and you think about some of the other verticals like franchises are entirely different, right? You've got
Yeah.
somebody at the corporate level versus the individual franchisee owners, and how are they going to leverage that? And how are they going to individualize or localize what sort of the emails that they send? Man, it's powerful stuff when you actually just look at it and say, how do I segment? How do I push? How do I message to people that are in different spaces, but that come to the same place?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to do. And that's why I always said it's always been difficult. And with the new rules in place, you have to have expertise
Yeah.
in doing that.
Yeah, it is funny. We run in these again parallel line where we
Yeah.
use that same sort of data because we work with casinos as well, and we use that
Mhm.
same sort of. We know what somebody's going to do, and we can serve them an ad. That's just how what our medium is to serve them an
Yeah.
ad. We do
Totally.
things like social listening and all that stuff, and it's the same thing though. It's leveraging the data, and you're right. Casinos, that's what I think of. Even franchises have this wealth of data, and that's such a an asset for companies to have
Yep.
that sort of data, what somebody's going
Yep.
to do, how much they spend when they come to your location. That type of
Yeah.
stuff is it can do so well. And especially on a platform like email, where if you can write a
Yeah.
really good email, you're going to get really good results.
And let's also take a look. When you have a system like an iPost, right? We've built the solution around the specific pieces of data that, let's just say, a casino loves to use, right? We also allow casinos on our platform. We've have a list of 50 or 60 different companies that are competitor to ours that don't allow it. In fact, they lump casinos in with some really bad actors, people
Mhm.
who are into a lot of, I don't want to talk about egregious stuff, but they lump it in their privacy policy and say, we want nothing to do with gambling. And so we've built this system knowing that we welcome and we're not going to kick people off the platform to do it. And we understand and know your data, player ID, as opposed to just an email address. And when you start talking about serving up ads, man, that's a huge aspect, right, to all of this, right? There's these connective tissues with how email can drive around ads or how ads can drive to email, right? There's this whole thing and how social drives it all. But sometimes you look at it and there's fragmentation happening in every single organization. I don't deal with those social people, and I
Yeah.
don't deal with those ad people, and
Yeah.
those email guys are weird anyway, so we don't want to deal with them. And so there's this huge, sometimes push-pull syndrome happening at organizations.
Right, right. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that with some of these obscure kind of markets. I wouldn't say casinos are maybe really obscure. The same thing like when we try to when we have cannabis companies that come to us, it's the same type of thing. It's like most people don't even want to touch it. They don't want to. And so
There's a lot of people out there that don't want to touch cannabis
yeah,
for whatever reason, and we'll do it at iPost, not
yeah,
because of anything else, but because it's an industry that needs to be served, and it's heavily regulated, just like casinos are. It's heavily regulated.
yeah,
It's not the
exactly.
Wild West with the dealer on the corner.
Yeah.
It's something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so really quick, I want to talk about deliverability. What are
Yeah.
the biggest reasons that emails land in spam and what can companies do about it?
Yeah. First of all, it all goes back to authentication. Do you have yourself properly set up with what I call the gateways into the inbox? Just because you have a DMARC, SPF, DKIM, and you have the stuff behind the scenes set up doesn't necessarily mean you're going to guarantee delivery. And there's a big difference between delivery and deliverability. Delivery means I connect and I get there. Deliverability means I actually get to the inbox, right? So you can get to the spam folder. This all boils back to the age-old question of relevance, right? Am I serving up things in email that's relevant to that individual, or am I letting things break on the back end? The way I say it all the time is when people sign up for your email program, it's like inviting them over to your house for a party, right?
Mhm.
You're going to want to show them around, right?
Yeah.
Here's
Yep.
where you put your coats. Here's the hors d'oeuvres. And oftentimes brands don't do that. So they sign up not
Mhm.
knowing what they're going to get. And then they get 5, 7 emails a week. And they're like, I don't want these stuff anymore. I'm going to mark it as spam. Engage with it. They're looking at the behavioral patterns of people like you and me in our inboxes to determine, you know what? That one's going to go to spam. That
Yeah.
one's going to go to the inbox, and you'll real see it. Like this message has been known to go by people into their spam folders. And so their brands can do a lot. They can set it up, but they can't forget about it because I've seen stuff break. But there also needs to be this gentle massage of new people coming in, how we're
Mhm.
going to send them email. Are we setting expectations? And then consistent monitoring of it. You could be the cleanest brand out there, folks. I don't
Yeah.
care who you are, the cleanest brand out there. But guess what? Even the cleanest brands will land up in the spam folder.
Mhm.
Everybody gets there. It's a
Yep.
matter of identifying it before it happens, not as it's happening. Because to get out of there is a long process.
Ah,
It's a long and arduous process.
definitely. Wow. Andrew, your wealth of experience really comes through in how you talk. It's very evident that you've been doing this for a long time. You know what you're talking about. This has
Yeah.
been so great. Where can people learn more about you? Where can people learn more about
Yeah.
iPost?
And look, if you Google my name, I'm probably going to show up in LinkedIn in the first couple of pages. Find me on LinkedIn, Andrew Kordek. It's slash Andrew Kordek. I can introduce you to iPost. I can introduce you to if you're just struggling in general. I'm happy to talk about it. And I'll always say this to everybody listening or watching that want to get a hold of me. That's my actual license plate. In the state of Illinois, I'm in Chicago. That's my license plate. And if you don't think that I love email enough to put it on my license plate and have my wife go like this when I did it, I don't know what else will. So find me on LinkedIn. It's the best way to do it. Just Google my name. I'm
Great.
out there. I write a lot of stuff.
Awesome. Thank you again for
Cool.
being on, Andrew. This is great.
Sure.